It's June 1978, and Britain is melting. One of those rare summers when even the pigeons look exhausted, the ice cream vans break down more often than they sell 90s, and half the country debates whether shorts that short should even be legal, and petrol sits at 78 pence a gallon. Daylight robbery with a smile. Across Europe, car makers are guessing what the public wants. The French think quirky means quality. The Italians treat saloons like catwalk models. And Japan quietly perfects reliability with the smug patience of a chess grandmaster. Meanwhile, behind the Iron Curtain, the Eastern Bloc is still hammering metal and hope together in equal measure. Some say one of this month's cars looked futuristic and dated at the same time. Another had rally trophies built into its ego. A third clung to the road like Velcro on wet wool. And the last puffed away like your uncle after 3 pints of bitter. All we know is they're the Citroen Visa, Fiat 131, Subaru 1600, and Wartburg 353. This is Four Wheels and Fuel, Season 2, Episode 5. Let's get moving.
Citroen Dimensione Visa. Invece del cruscotto, il satellite. I comandi sono centralizzati. Invece dello spinterogeno, un computer. Visa all'accensione elettronica integrale. Citroen Visa invece dell'auto.
Citroen Visa 1.1 Club. By June 1978, Citroen was quietly cooking up something new. After 2 decades of building elegant eccentricities, the DS, GS, and SM, the company was preparing to do something it hadn't done before. Build a proper super mini. The Renault 5, Fiat 127, and brand new Volkswagen Polo were cleaning up in Europe, and Citroen didn't have a challenger. That was about to change. Hidden behind test track fences and long lenses, prototypes of Citroen's mysterious Project Y were already rolling. It would soon be called the Visa, and it was shaping up to be as Citroen as ever. Bold, baffling, and a bit brilliant. Rumour had it the car shared its underpinnings with the Peugeot 104 because of the new PSA marriage. But the body would be pure Citroen theatre. Even in camouflage, the shape looked like nothing else. A nose that seemed slightly melted, a grille like a bathroom vent, and headlights forever caught in surprise. Pop the bonnet of those early pre-production cars, and you'd find a 1.1-litre 4-cylinder, producing around 57 horsepower. It wasn't going to set records, but it promised economy that mattered more than speed during an age of rising petrol prices. Citroen engineers were proudest of the suspension. So soft, it made cobbled streets feel civilized. One test driver allegedly called it a small GS that's forgotten it's small. Inside, it was unmistakably French. A one-piece molded plastic dashboard that looked like it came from the kitchen cupboard. A single-spoke steering wheel lifted straight from Citroen's eccentricity archive. And the gear lever? Less lever, more stirring spoon. But it all added up to that unique Citroen recipe. Slightly odd, deeply lovable. Road testers who sneaked early drives described it as oddly refined. The 1.1-litre engine purred rather than screamed. The steering was feather light, and the ride quality defied the car's size. It wasn't sporty, it wasn't flashy, but it was unmistakably confident in its own weird way. Citroen promised the Visa would go on sale by autumn, priced to tempt buyers out of Renault 5s and Ford Fiestas. In a summer full of strikes, heat, and high petrol bills, the idea of a thrifty, comfy little Citroen felt strangely reassuring. No one yet knew if it would be a hit, but everyone knew it would be interesting. A super mini so French, it was arguing with itself before it even launched.
Va bene, su dai, vieni indietro.
Ecco cosa può capitare ogni giorno alla vostra automobile.
Ma porca miseria, non c'hai occhiali! Non è niente, va.
La soluzione? Un'automobile più robusta. Robusta come la Fiat 131 Mirafiori. Ha un motore a basso numero di giri per durare più a lungo. È fortemente protetta contro la ruggine. È disponibile a richiesta con paraurti ad assorbimento d'energia. Ha l'abitacolo rinforzato con 3 anelli orizzontali di sicurezza. Fiat 131 Mirafiori, progettata per durare più a lungo.
Fiat 1311.6 Speciale. The Fiat 131 was the definition of a double life. In suburbia, it was the respectable family saloon for Italian clerks, teachers, and anyone with a neat moustache. In the forests of Finland, it was a rally-bred hooligan. The 131 Abarth, sideways at 80 miles per hour, spraying gravel and glory. Few cars could switch between school runs and world titles with such confidence. Launched in 1974, the 131, or Mirafiori, named after Fiat's Turin factory district, was Italy's answer to everyday mobility. Its design summed up the decade, squared off, honest, and quietly handsome. It had the sort of crisp lines that could slice focaccia, a purposeful nose with twin headlights, and just enough chrome to look middle class without embarrassment. It didn't shout, it simply existed well. The 1.6 Speciale was the top of the early range, a family saloon with just enough style to rise above the basic normale trim level. It wasn't luxurious, but it felt a cut above. Clear triple square dials, a padded adjustable steering wheel, and firm seats that brought a hint of Italian flair to the weekday commute. Pop the bonnet and you'd find the 1.6-litre inline-4 making about 75 horsepower. Hardly fire-breathing, but spirited. It revved freely and sounded cheerful, and paired with a light clutch and slick gearbox, it made the daily commute feel almost Italian, even in Croydon. The steering had a lovely weight, the brakes inspired confidence, and the chassis balance made twisty roads fun without any rally ambitions. On the road, the 131 felt planted and eager. The suspension was soft enough for comfort, yet taut enough to hint at its Abarth DNA. It wasn't fast, but it didn't need to be. It had personality. Of course, Fiat's biggest rival wasn't another car, it was rust. A 131 could turn from showroom fresh to brown lacework faster than a loaf of bread left outside. Yet, when it wasn't dissolving, it was brilliant. The 131 handled beautifully, braked well, and could take a family of 4 to the seaside without complaint. Today, survivors are rare, victims of salt, neglect, and time. But when you spot one, it still carries that understated swagger. A relic from when Italians designed family cars with flair and purpose, even if nothing always fit perfectly. Rust? Absolutely. Regret? Never. The Fiat 131 was proof that even a modest saloon could feel heroic if you squinted hard enough and kept a rag handy for the wheel archers.
スバルは時代を予見する。レオーネセダン 4WD。それはスバルが優れた FF 方式から作り出した世界で唯一の車。スタイル、居住性、乗り心地。セダンでありながら四輪駆動車特有の想像もできない踏破力を内に秘めている。レオーネセダン 4WD。スバルの妥協のない車作りから生まれたこの名車が今また新しい車の世界を切り開く。常に次の時代を見通して独走の道をひた走るスバルレオーネ。
Subaru 1600. By the late 70s, Japan was winning over the world with cars that were small, neat, and relentlessly reliable. Subaru, however, had other ideas. While everyone else was perfecting front-wheel drive economy cars, Subaru quietly bolted an extra drive shaft underneath and gave the world a four-wheel drive car. A mild-mannered saloon that secretly came with four-wheel drive attitude. And yes, this is the same car as the Leone from the previous episode, but now in its facelifted form. It still looked about as exciting as an accountant's briefcase. Boxy shape, round lamps, and a honeycomb grille. Yet that plainness had purpose. Tall glass meant brilliant visibility. The doors opened wide for muddy boots, and every control fell neatly to hand. It was designed by geometry, not emotion, and it worked. Pop the bonnet and you'd find Subaru's calling card, a flat-4 boxer engine sitting low for balance. It made around 70 horsepower, delivered through a tidy 4-speed manual, and if you pulled the little lever beside the gear stick, through all four wheels. Suddenly, your modest commuter became a miniature mountain goat. Snow, gravel, wet grass, it just kept going, smugly unbothered, while others spun helplessly. On British roads, the 1600 earned quiet respect. It wasn't quick, 15 seconds to 60 miles per hour on a good day, but it felt unshakably solid. Steering was light yet precise, the brakes firm, and the chassis reassuringly tight. It had that sense of mechanical honesty Japan did best. No drama, no breakdowns, just steady progress in any weather. Inside, utility ruled. Hard plastics, upright seats, green glowing dials, and a heater that actually worked. A revelation in 1978. Everything operated with the calm precision of a rice cooker. Even the radio behaved itself. And while rivals offered velour and chrome, the Subaru countered with reliability and legroom. Farmers loved them, postmen swore by them, and in Sweden, one dealer famously towed a stranded Mercedes out of a ditch with a 1600, and sold 5 more the same day. It wasn't a car you bragged about, it was a car that quietly got the last laugh. When blizzards hit, Subarus started. When hills appeared, they climbed. And when the others rusted away, they just kept running, puffing gently like satisfied workhorses. Unassuming looks, unstoppable engineering. The Subaru 1600 proved that understatement, when done right, could outlast everything loud around it.
Da ist er. 125 Kilometer. Ausgezeichnete Straßenlage. Der Der neue Wartburg 1000. Ein echter Fünfsitzer. Kofferraum für 57 Fußbälle. Modernste Karosserieform. Der neue Wartburg 1000 aus der Wartburgstadt Eisenach.
Wartburg 353. If the Fiat 131 was style and the Subaru 1600 was science, the Wartburg 353 was sheer stubbornness on wheels. Built in Eisenach, East Germany, it came from a land where getting a car required patience, paperwork, and party approval. For most people, owning a Wartburg wasn't about freedom. It was about finally reaching the front of the queue. The 353 looked like a Cortina, reimagined by a geometry teacher. All squares, straight lines, and no time for frills. Tall stans, thin pillars, and a bonnet so big you could have dinner on it. Pretty? Not quite. Practical? Absolutely. It was the kind of car that looked like it was designed with a pencil, a ruler, and a strict deadline before lunch. Pop the bonnet, and you'd find a 992 cubic centimeters three-cylinder two-stroke engine, good for 50 horsepower and an unforgettable soundtrack. It idled like a chainsaw, smoked like a steel mill, and accelerated like a washing machine mid-spin. But it always started, and when it did, the neighborhood knew about it. Drivers kept spare spark plugs and oil bottles in the boot, essentials in the Wartburg's survival kit. The column-mounted four-speed gearbox was vague but friendly, and the front-wheel drive gave more grip than anyone expected. Officially, it could do 87 miles per hour, though few dared prove it. What it lacked in sophistication, it made up for in fixability. A Wartburg owner with a few spanners could rebuild an engine before the evening news. In East Germany, that counted as luxury. Inside, it was pure utility. Shiny plastics, tiny seats, and a smell that could outlast communism. Comfort was relative, but space wasn't. It could swallow luggage, relatives, and the family dog without complaint. And despite its crude manners, people loved it. It symbolized endurance, practicality, and the art of making do with whatever bolts were left in the factory bin. Amazingly, the 353 even reached the West, sold through a few optimistic British dealers who also handled Mostwiches. At rallies across Eastern Europe, Wartburgs competed proudly, leaving behind clouds of blue smoke and the smell of determination. Today, the few survivors still puff cheerfully along Eastern roads, defiant, nostalgic, and wonderfully ridiculous. A car that refused to give up and made sure everyone around it couldn't forget it, even if they tried. Smoky, noisy, and crude, the Wartburg was socialism's stubborn survivor. That was June 1978, when Europe's car market was a glorious jumble of ideas. The Citroen Visa proved eccentricity could be mass-produced. The Fiat 131 mixed family duty with rally DNA. The Subaru 1600 quietly reinvented reliability. And the Wartburg 353 smoked its way into history with two-stroke determination. Together, they showed that the family car could be odd, clever, or simply stubborn, and still make people smile. Did your family own one of these, or have you spotted one still chugging along today? Share your stories below. They keep this history alive. Next month, July 1978 brings 4 very different dreams. Mitsubishi's refinement, Austin's optimism, Lada's off-road grit, and Volkswagen's quiet precision. That was June 1978. This is 4 Wheels and Fuel. We're keeping those stories on the road.